Here's why I'm still buying ZBCN and why 10 cents, that's still my price target for this bond, hypothetically speaking, even though that's not financial advice. But the first part, I do want to talk about why I'm still buying ZBCN because, in my opinion, compared to something like Dogecoin and Shiba Inu, which I think are a little bit kind of like dinosaurs, I would much rather choose something like ZBCN, which isn't a meme coin. Now, don't get me wrong, I love meme coins, but I don't like Dogecoin and Shiba Inu. But then at the same time, the hypothetical upside feels like a meme coin. Now, let me explain why. ZBCN going to the price of 10 cents. That right there is around a 70x from here. That's kind of crazy to think about, actually. Again, Dogecoin and Shiba Inu can't do that in the next 6 to 10 months, in my opinion. Now, there's no guarantees, but the way to take a look at it is that when it comes to something like Zebec, take a look at the attention it's having as of right now. Bitcoin hasn't went back to the price of $100,000 yet. I mean, can you imagine that? Especially once a lot of volume starts flowing into altcoins, I think that if anything, this could maybe be there to catch the wave because I think the boring times that we saw not too long ago, I think it was perfect time for a lot of people, at least personally for me, to accumulate more about ZBCN. And I've seen a lot of people out there during those boring times actually study more about Zebec and understand why the Zebec network is actually very special and arguably, fundamentally speaking, might even be more special than something like Stellar and something like Ripple, even though it doesn't have the adoption, of course, or the, perceived good fundamentals. But in my opinion, Zebec actually, on paper at least, I view it as something being more than Ripple and Stellar in a sense that it just kind of feels like it has more layers to this. Now, let me explain why. Because if we take a look at the Zebec network, it's even been stated that Zebec is a decentralized infrastructure network for real-world value flows. Some people may clown this because they take a look at other projects, like, for instance, Ondo. They're also focused on, let's say, RWA. We take a look at, again, a bunch of other projects out there that are focused on this. But I think Zebec, what makes it special is the fact that not only is it focused on RWAs, and just to give a pretty clear example as to what this is, or should I say a very simple one, we'll see that one of their main focuses is something called RWA payments. And RWA stands for real world asset, and RWA tokens are digital representations of physical assets on the blockchain. So, like, for example, these sectors, they could be for like real estate, art, bonds, stocks. I mean, there's a bunch of possibilities. So again, that's very special. But I think what really sets Zebec apart from the rest of the competition, and even maybe compared to something like Ripple and Stellar, which I don't think it's ever going to defeat, but I think what sets it apart is the fact that it's focused on something called AI-based PayFi. Now, this is massive because the way I view it is that Zebec, they understand that, we're not this multi-billion-dollar market cap project, but let's start when we need to start. Let's start right now because, quite frankly, I think some other projects out there, they're like, oh yeah, we have to wait till we become massive and then we're going to focus on this type of stuff. Zebec, they're not like that. They have a winner's mentality because when we take a look at AI, some of the hype is beginning to come back in again. And you combine that again with payments, quite essentially, again, AI-based PayFi. This is a game, set, match type of thing to be focused on because the AI market is predicted to reach nearly $2 trillion by 2030, according to Grandview Research. We take a look at the payments market, valued at over $2 trillion currently, and the global trade and finance market, which is predicted to reach up to $5 trillion in value by 2028. So as I begin to say this, if we take a look at, this with a removed bias type of mindset, and also if, let's say, we just take a look at Ripple, Stellar, and something like Zebec for what it is, right? Not in terms of market cap of XRP or XLM or ZBCN, just in terms of pure fundamentals, what seems like it has more layers? What seems to have more going on for it? I would arguably say, again, in terms of pure fundamentals, I would say Zebec. Even though, don't get me wrong, I'm bullish on XRP and XLM, and I think a lot of the future hype and anticipation when it comes to Zebec is going to depend on XRP and XLM doing well because, of course, they are the market leaders. But in my opinion, again, this just feels a little bit better. And what I appreciate about Zebec is that they're not just this random project that is just trying to piggyback off the hype of XRP and XLM because, again, take a look at Zebec as a project. They're at least doing things. Not to mention, it's actually being noticed, in my opinion, to a certain degree because when we take a look at how Zebec is partners with Visa, MasterCard, Bank of America, JP Morgan, of course, there's many others, but I'm just saying, this says something. It showcases that, these large-scale entities, they might see something here. Doesn't mean they're going to be correct, but again, the way you take a look at it is that at least they see something here for them to even be partners with them in the first place, right? Or not, how would that even be a possibility? These large entities, they're not going to partner with any random project, in my opinion. Not to mention, I think another key indicator as to what people view this project as, at least in a larger scale, is the fact that we have to see I would arguably say, these large-scale investors. And when it comes to Zebec, I've taken a look at that. And when I take a look at Zebec's investors, there's something called Solana Ventures. Now, of course, when we take a look at Zebec, it has a very close association with Solana. So that's something that I do like in terms of the project, of course. And of course, with something like the Solana ETF in Canada, which many people could hypothetically think that, hey, you know what? When that thing is fully in fifth gear, so to speak, right? When it's like in fifth gear in terms of its, perceived hype and, just attention, I think many people think that, hey, you know what? That could bring a lot of positive energy towards this space, bring a lot of positive sentiment, and naturally, it's going to benefit these Solana-based projects too. And also, maybe something like Zebec could, piggyback off that attention. So this right here is something that I do like. Not to mention as well, we have to take a look at how when it comes to Zebec, another one of their alleged investors is Circle. Now, Circle is not just drawing some random, circle, right? It's actually the creator of USDC. So when you think about that, USDC is many people's go-to number 2 stablecoin behind USDT, many people would argue. So then, that's massive right there. You have something like Circle, we have something like Solana Ventures, quite essentially believing in something like this because they are investors, right? Allegedly, in this. So Zebec, it showcases that, you know what? This is a project that's very underrated. It's not massive by the standard of let's say Solana, Ethereum, or BNB. It's not like that. It's still relatively speaking quite a low market cap project. But then the fact that it's able to achieve stuff like this, that's amazing in my opinion. It's a different case if ZBCN was like a multi-billion-dollar cryptocurrency, which it isn't as of right now, of course. That would be a different case if it had investors like that, if it already had partnerships like that. It's kind of expected, but it's kind of unexpected to see that with something like this. So of course, this does get me really excited. And when I take a look at it, as of right now, we're seeing Bitcoin have a pretty good recovery, but I think it's just a matter of time before altcoins really start gaining the attention that they hypothetically maybe truly deserve. And something like ZBCN, I mean, this I just feel like going to the price of 10 cents, it just doesn't feel that difficult. If it were to go to that price again, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $7.5 billion. I mean, are you kidding me? Let's say Dogecoin, back in 2021 reached over $80 billion in market cap, which it did. Also that year, Shiba Inu reached around $40 billion. I mean, come on, this isn't even 10% of Dogecoin's all-time high market cap, and that was years ago. Not to mention, if let's say XRP during this bull run went to a market cap of around $800 billion and XLM went to a market cap of around $300 billion, are we seeing out of over $1 trillion, right? If let's say we combine both the hypothetical peak of what the market cap of XRP and XLM could be like in that example, again, right, that's combined 1.1 trillion, let's say in this hypothetical scenario, are we saying that, around 7.5 billion out of over 1,000 billion can't flow into this? And the crazy thing is that ZBCN is actually top 10 within this space. I know it may sound a little bit crazy, but it actually hypothetically is, because we know that the market leaders are XRP and XLM. There's no debating that. We also take a look at something like, for instance, XDC and XCN. I think universally many people do agree that, that's number 3 and number 4. But what's number 5 and number 6? Arguably either ZBCN or XPR. And then I would say number 7 is Swiftcoin. Isn't that kind of crazy, actually? A market, like the payments market, the global trade and finance market, which is predicted to be so massive, but then the projects that are focused on that in this crypto space, there's not that many. And something even like ZBCN is already top 10, which is kind of crazy. Now, I think a reason why, or a major reason why, is because of the nonsense regarding Ripple and SEC, not too long ago, which of course now it's hopefully gone forever. So then that's a good thing, right? Of course. But then because of that happened, not many developers wanted to hop onto this, sort of market. Now what happened? It's a little bit too late, but then it's actually a benefit for something like ZBCN. Now, arguably, many people would say, hey, the better the competition, the better it is for these amazing projects that truly stand out. In theory, yeah, probably. But then who cares? you know what? I don't control the markets. I can't control whether or not a developer builds a project. So I'm just going to take it at face value and be like, you know what? If it's not having that much competition, I'm not going to complain. That's just the way I take a look at it. So this is a blessing in disguise when it comes to something like ZBCN, because now there's not that many competitors. So when other people get bored of the dinosaurs, like many people would arguably say XRP and XLM is, some people, right? So again, if they get bored of that, they don't have many other options to move on to within this space. Sure, they have, again, XDC, XCN, ZBCN, of course, XPR, Swiftcoin, but that's not like 20 or 30 like what we see with blockchain gaming or DeFi or NFTs. So this is what I like about it. I just got to stay patient because the market's going to do what it's going to do. There's no exact way to tell the future, but with the way Bitcoin is heading as of right now, with the way that altcoins are beginning to have a good recovery, let's say it continues this for months down the line, and let's say Bitcoin goes to 150,000, 200,000, 250, 300,000. ZBCN at the price of 10 cents. I just don't see why not. Might seem a little bit bearish actually at that point if, let's say, Bitcoin were to go to the price of $300,000. But again, only time will tell. And the way that I can kind of mitigate my risk in a sense that, I don't have to be trying to outsmart the market each and every day. It's just by accumulating, holding, and just waiting, that's it. So then when the market eventually does decide to hypothetically wake up, I think this is going to just be a much better strategy for me because when it goes up, I don't miss out on it, right? Because I was holding the entire time anyways. And again, 10 cents wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And I'm still very bullish on ZBCN. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.